Hello everyone. If you like this audiobook and want to listen to more, please consider subscribing. And if you like this video, like it as well, that it enjoy.
Invincible. Mark Grayson's POV. Flying used to clear my head. Used to be the one thing that made everything else fade away, you know. Up here, above the city, with the wind rushing past and nothing but open sky, all the bullshit on the ground just disappeared. Not anymore. Now I was flying in circles over downtown Chicago, and all I could think about was the conversation a few hours ago. Mom hasn't slept in 2 days. I could hear her pacing downstairs at 3 a.m., making coffee she wouldn't drink, picking up her phone to call Dad and then putting it down again. Dad was missing. Now, this wasn't new. Dad had been on missions for days without contact before. I'd grown up with it. Week-long disappearances, fighting kaiju or stopping alien invasions or buried under a mountain somewhere. It was normal for me. But this time felt different. Some scarred government spook named Cecil had shown up at our door. Mrs. Grayson, Mark. His voice was compassionate, but there was something underneath it that made my skin crawl. I need to know where Nolan is. And when it became clear we had no fucking clue where Dad was, Cecil had dropped the bomb. Mrs. Grayson, he'd said, his voice flat, I need you to understand the gravity of this situation. The Guardians of the Globe were attacked 2 nights ago in their headquarters. The Immortal and Aquarius were dead, while there was very little chance for others to make it through the coma. Most surprisingly, they found Dad's blood at the scene. A lot of it. We believe Omni-Man was at the scene of the murder and was heavily injured before being abducted. I'd been about to deck this asshole right there in our living room, but Mom grabbed my arm. The way she looked at Cecil, the way her voice changed when she spoke to him, there was history there. Old history that I didn't know about. She believed him, my dad, Omni-Man, Earth's greatest hero. Abducted? No way. There had to be an explanation. Dad was the strongest person on the planet. Who the hell could abduct him? I didn't know, and that's what was eating me alive. I'd put on my costume and left before I had to see Mom cry. I needed to hit something. Needed to feel useful instead of helpless. The portal suddenly opened, red swirling tears in reality itself, and out came an army. Green-skinned aliens in futuristic armor, carrying energy weapons that hummed with power. 3 portals, spitting out soldiers in organized formations like this was a planned invasion. Flaxons. Dad had fought them before. Dimensional invaders that had shown up to try and conquer Earth before getting their asses kicked and retreating back to their dimension. But this time they came back and went straight to slaughter people. Energy blasts tore through storefronts as a woman's scream cut off mid-breath as she vaporized along with a kid, who couldn't have been more than 10, running for cover before a tank shell turned him into red mist. All that anger, all that frustration, everything that had been building since Cecil's visit just erupted. I shot toward the nearest tank like a missile. Hey, my voice cracked halfway through the shout. You want someone to fight? Fight me. The Flaxon tank's cannon swiveled smoothly, locked onto me. I saw the energy building in the barrel, saw the red glow intensifying, and I had maybe half a second to realize I'd fucked up. The blast hit me square in the chest. I flew backwards through a coffee shop, through the kitchen, out the back wall, across an alley, into an office building, and finally cratered into the street hard enough that the asphalt spider webbed beneath me. My ears were ringing, my chest hurt like someone had hit me with a sledgehammer, and my vision was swimming. Yet I could still hear screaming. People had been in that coffee shop. People I'd just gotten hit through. People who'd been in the blast radius when that energy cannon fired. I pushed myself up and saw the charred and mangled bodies. This wasn't anything like stopping a bank robbery. This wasn't catching car thieves or breaking up gang fights. This was war, and I'd just made myself a target without thinking about who was behind me. An old woman was running, just trying to get to safety. But she was slow, stumbling and terrified. Another energy blast charged up, aimed at her. I moved on instinct, grabbed her mid-run, tried to pull her out of the way. But I wasn't fast enough. The blast caught her anyway, burning through her side, even as I tried to shield her with my body. She looked up at me with these wide, confused eyes. Like she couldn't understand what was happening. Like she was asking me why I didn't save her. And then she just stopped as her arm went limp. I'd failed. She was right there in my hands and I failed to save her. Invincible. Image here. Adam Eve descended in a burst of pink energy, her power forming a force field around me just as another barrage of shots came screaming in. Get your head in the game. She yelled, hands glowing as she deflected blast after blast. "You're gonna get killed standing there." Robot's voice crackled through comms, mechanical and calm like always. "Invincible, evacuate that civilian to the nearest hospital immediately. We're engaging the hostiles but civilian casualties are mounting. Move." I wanted to argue, wanted to stay and fight and prove I wasn't useless. Wanted to make these bastards pay for killing her. But the old woman's blood was soaking into my costume, and Eve was right, I was just standing here like an idiot while she did all the work. I took off toward the nearest hospital, the woman's body getting colder in my arms with every second. Behind me, I could hear the team engaging the aliens. Rex's explosions blast away the incoming alien march. The wet crunch of Duplicate's coordinated strikes, as she tactically sacrifices her clones who threw themselves at enemies to create openings. Eve's energy construct became adamant on stopping all alien attacks and pretending to be as many people as possible. Finally, Robot's voice came again, and this time there was actually concern in its robotic tone. "Correction. We may not have an adequate force to repel this incursion. Enemy reinforcements are coming at a staggering rate. Requesting immediate GDA backup and, Director Stedman, are we authorized for tactical nuclear deployment if the situation deteriorates further?" Nuclear. They were talking about nuking downtown Chicago. I was about to turn around and give that metal man a piece of my mind. Then I heard it, metal screaming and something massive hitting the ground. An impact that shook buildings 3 blocks away. What the hell was that? John Kaisen Pav. The agents had finally stopped treating me like a bomb about to explode after my little prayer session to RNGesus. They'd collectively decided I was retarded, which fair, I had literally prostrated myself on the floor of a military aircraft sobbing about the beauty of gambling. That probably didn't scream, sound mental health. Donald was back to his tablet, the agents had their rifles down, and I was just starting to think maybe I could survive this flight without further embarrassment. Then every alarm in the jet started screaming. Red lights flooded the cabin. The agents went from 0 to combat ready in half a second, weapons up, scanning for threats like they expected aliens to teleport into the plane. Donald looked at his tablet, and his expression shifted from bureaucratic calm to military focus so fast I got whiplash watching it. "Everyone, we have a Flaxen incursion in progress," he barked, voice cutting through the bearing alarms. "Dimensional breach in downtown Chicago. 3 portals confirmed with hundreds of hostiles. Team is engaged but taking heavy civilian casualties. We're rerouting for immediate combat deployment." He yanked open a locker, started pulling out gear. "All personnel, prepare for hot zone insertion. This is a rescue and extraction mission. No need to be a hero. Arm up and prep for drop." "Roger, sir," they chorused as the agents moved like they'd done this 1,000 times. Securing equipment, loading weapons, and strapping on jetpacks that looked way too flimsy to actually work. Meanwhile, I was sitting there in borrowed glasses trying to process what the absolute fuck was happening. Flaxens. The decaying green assholes from another dimension who aged rapidly on Earth and had to retreat after like 20 minutes or they'd literally rot to death. I remembered this from the show. This was Mark's first big fight. The one where he almost died because he didn't know what he was doing yet. And suddenly, a terrible and absolutely idiotic idea formed in my head. This was it, my chance to get out of all this bloody mess surrounding me. Donald turned toward me, and I saw it coming before he even moved. Those tungsten cuffs appeared in his hands like a magic trick. "Oh, come on," I protested as he snapped them around my wrists, completely encasing my fists. "We literally just played this game. I even surrendered for those tests. What's the point? Emergency protocols insist on unconventional actions, Mr. Kaisen." Donald's voice was apologetic but firm. "We cannot have an individual in your current mental state unsupervised during active combat operations. It's for your safety as much as ours." My mental state, I am not AR. The rear hatch of the jet opened mid-flight, drowning out my frustrated scream. "Go, go, go," Donald shouted. Wind screamed into the cabin as I watched the agents jump out one by one, activating jetpacks as they fell, descending toward the war zone below in perfect formation. Through the window I could see the chaos. The buildings were on fire. Energy blasts lighting up the sky, and green heads swarming through streets. And worst of all, I could see people running, screaming and dying. These Flaxens were tearing Chicago apart. I remembered from the show. They only stayed for a limited time before their rapid tachyon signature made them age and decay in this dimension. Maybe 20, 30 minutes tops before they had to retreat. I had very little time to act, which meant I needed to do something monumentally stupid right now. I stood up. Donald saw me moving toward the hatch and his eyes went wide. "Mr. Kaisen, sit down. That's an order." I ran. "Mr. Kaisen, no," and jumped. 29 comments 0 vote. With this sacred power, I summon forth. I ran. "Mr. Kaisen, no," and jumped. Okay, so maybe throwing myself out of a government jet 30,000 feet up while handcuffed was not my smartest decision. But in my defense, I'd just pulled the gambler trait, and I was riding a high. Also, I'm a gambling addict with impulse control issues, so this was basically on brand. The wind hit me like a wall pushing against my chest, ripping the air from my lungs, tearing at my clothes. The ground was rushing up way too fast, buildings getting bigger, and streets became clear. This was fine. I had a plan, probably. The GDA agents nearby were gaping at me in shock as I plummeted past them. Midair, I activated my abilities. Steam emission in slot 1, zero gravity in slot 2 and Blademaster in slot 3. The energy blades formed inside the tungsten cuffs, growing with the summoner trait boosting their potency, and I felt them slice through the metal restraints from the inside out. The cuffs sliced open, pieces spinning away into the air. My hands were free again. Zero gravity kicked in, and suddenly I wasn't falling anymore. Weightlessness hit me like a switch flipping. I was floating, drifting like a balloon in a hurricane, spinning uncontrollably with no way to orient myself. Agents were flying toward me with their jetpacks, trying to grab me, probably to save me or worse, arrest me. I projected steam from my palms like the world's shittiest Iron Man repulsor, using the force to push myself away and change direction, trying to control my movement. Scalding steam erupted from my palms in concentrated jets. The force was immediate and brutal, and I shot upward like a rocket, completely overshooting my intended trajectory and nearly colliding with the plane I'd just jumped out of. "Fuck," I yelped, cutting the steam and immediately starting to fall again. The rush was incredible. I was flying in the open sky, a rush of winds hitting my face, and most importantly, I was flying, I was fucking flying. And then the panic hit. I was 30,000 feet up, flying on steam propulsion with no training at all. I fumbled the steam projection, shot too hard in one direction, spun wildly, overcompensated again and went spiraling in another direction, nearly colliding with an agent. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might explode. My hands were shaking. The world was spinning and I couldn't tell which way was up. Fuck, this was a bad idea. This was such a bad idea. Why did I jump out of a plane? I remembered something as I pulled the Temperance Tarot card from my mental storage and activated it. The tarot card glowed white and immediately, everything went quiet. My mind was assaulted with complete silence. Every emotion, fear and anxiety just got muted and shoved into a box so I could think clearly. All that remained was total and sharp focus. My movements smoothed out instantly. The steam hissed from my palms, and I could actually control my descent now. Not graceful, not even close to flight, but I was managing a controlled fall instead of a death plummet. Much better. "Nakame," I thought, reaching for our mental connection. "Are you alright? Did Omni-Man get you?" Her response came through strained, and she sounded exhausted. "This one is managing, Master. The monster is weakened as his injuries are getting worse, but he refuses to cease his rampage. Can you hold him for a few more minutes? As long as Master commands, I will fight. Even unto death, I will drag the monster into oblivion with me if I must." Yeah, no, let's not do the dramatic sacrifice thing, I thought. New plan. Start agitating him, taunt him, rage bait him if you have to. I want him absolutely consumed with rage. And be ready to open a portal on my signal. There was a pause from Nakame. "Master, that strategy seems exceptionally dangerous." "I know, but I've got a plan. Kind of, maybe, just trust me." Single quote. This one obeys. The connection went quiet, and I focused on the battlefield below. Downtown Chicago looked like a war zone from a video game. Flaxen soldiers everywhere, organized formations firing in coordinated volleys, energy weapons firing indiscriminately, and tanks rolling through streets, crushing everything in their path. And worst of all, civilians caught in crossfire. Running, screaming, dying. And there, right in the middle of the worst of it, was Invincible. He was on the ground, crouched an old woman, trying to shield her with his body while a Flaxen tank's main cannon charged up. The energy building in that barrel was ready to vaporize them both. I had maybe 3 seconds. Fuck it, I pulled the tank from my mental storage right there and then. M1A2 Abrams, 40 tons of American steel and infinite ammunition, materialized in the air above the Flaxen tank. Image here, and gravity, that beautiful bitch, took over. 40 tons accelerating at 10 meters per second squared. The impact sounded like the warhead detonating. My tank came down like the fist of an angry god, pancaked the Flaxen tank flat, crushed the crew inside, and the resulting explosion from the crash sent a shockwave through the street that shattered every window in a 3-block radius, charring all nearby alien soldiers. I touched down on the ground, steam still venting from my palms to control my descent, and immediately felt devastated. My tank, my gorgeous tank with unlimited fuel and ammunition, reduced to unrecognizable scrap metal in one glorious suicide drop. Worth it, obviously. It saved lives and gave the heroes an opening. But still, RIP tank, you were too beautiful for this world. Robot was hovering nearby, his mechanical voice crackling through speakers, as he landed near me. Quote. Unexpected variable detected. Please verify your identity. The 5-minute cooldown on zero gravity hit, and I swapped it out for call to arms. My energy blade materialized, rapier like an elegant, silver light condensed into a killing edge. The fencing training from my old life came flooding back. Muscle memory of the pieced, the advance, the lunge, the riposte. This wasn't a brawler's weapon, thus the only weapon I was forced to learn. The summoner trait boosted it, made it sharper, lighter and more durable. I felt my stamina drain as calories burned to power the ability, and I felt hunger starting to gnaw at my gut. But the temperance card kept me in total focus and kept the discomfort at bay. A Flaxen soldier nearby was staring at the crushed tank instead of watching his surroundings, his face slack with shock. In a single action, I performed a rapid through his eye socket. The blade went in smoothly, punched through the orbital bone, pierced brain matter, and came out the back of his skull in one fluid motion. He dropped instantly. The alien was dead before he hit the ground. As I watched the dead body, I was momentarily uncomfortable. I should have felt something: horror, guilt, remorse for taking a life, anything, but I felt nothing. But the temperance card had muted all that, and honestly, these fuckers were killing innocent civilians. This was self-defense. I approached Robot, who was still analyzing the dead alien and in the middle of giving commands to his team. "Sorry about this," I said, and sliced his metal head off. The team screamed in unison. "What the fuck?" Rexplode's voice hit a pitch I didn't think was humanly possible. "He just killed Robot," one of the duplicates shrieked, all of them turning toward me with murder in their eyes. But I ignored them, shoved my arm into Robot's severed neck, and yanked out the advanced battery reactor that powered his drone body. The glowing one trait activated instantly. Radiation flooded into my body, pure energy absorbing directly into my cells. The hunger magically vanished as my stamina reserves filled to maximum. I could even feel my physical stats ticked up slightly from the dose. This battery was basically a cultivation pill for me. Perfect. Rex landed in front of me, fist cocked back, his face twisted in rage. "You just destroyed my friend's body, asshole." He swung. I dodged effortlessly. Enhanced focus, letting me see the punch coming from a mile away. I stepped inside his guard and headbutted him directly in the nose. His nose crunched as blood sprayed. He staggered back, cursing and clutching his face. "Robot's fine," I shouted over the chaos. "It's a remote-controlled drone. He's not even here." But they weren't listening, too shocked and angry to process words. Whatever. I'd apologize later. Right now, I need to end this invasion and terrify them enough to force them to retreat. I had 3 ability slots active. That meant call to arms would pull from the gold familiar pool. Time to gamble everything on one pull. I activated call to arms for a blind summon. The gacha wheel spun in my vision, and I felt the heart of the cards. Okay, that's cheesy even for me, I thought. And I finally saw the roll. Blue Eyes White Dragon, Elite Familiar. Yu-Gi-Oh! A dragon of the legends known as an engine of destruction. This dragon, while being very physically powerful with exceptional toughness, is also capable of unleashing a devastating lightning breath and capable of flying at fast speeds. Image here, and then as if something took over. Maybe it was the gambling high or just the sheer absurdity of the situation. Or just maybe it was because I'd always wanted to do this as a kid. But I threw my arms wide and screamed at the top of my lungs. With this sacred power, I summon forth my pride, my soul, my ultimate card. Blue Eyes White Dragon. Majestic blue flames erupted from the summoning circle that appeared beneath me, so goddamn extra that I almost laughed. The dragon finally materialized. White scales that gleamed like polished steel, each one the size of my hand. Crystalline blue eyes that glowed with inner light. Wings that spread 15 feet from tip to tip, each feather scale razor sharp. It was massive, 4.5 meters long, not counting the tail. Big enough to carry a car. Small enough to maneuver through city streets without destroying everything. Just like the card art. Perfect. RROAAARRGH. Its roar shook the entire battlefield. Buildings trembled, windows shattered in cascading waves, and all sorts of alarms went off across 6 city blocks. I could see the fear on their faces, the sudden recognition that they were no longer the apex predators on this battlefield. The flaxen soldiers stumbled, looking up in primal terror at the massive predator that had just entered the food chain above them. The blue eyes white dragon spread its wings, opened its maw, and lightning crackled in its throat. The summoner trait boosted its traits, making it stronger, faster and more connected to me. The crackling energy built in its throat, white-blue lightning condensing into a beam of pure destruction. And then it fired. Burst stream of destruction. The words came out of my mouth without even trying. Muscle memory from a childhood spent watching anime and dreaming of having my own blue eyes. The lightning breath weapon carved through the flaxen lines like a laser through tissue paper. Soldiers vaporized instantly, armor melting and bodies turning to ash before they could even scream. Tanks became molten slag, superheated metal running like water. The beam swept across their formation in a wide arc, and everywhere it touched, there was only death. A dozen flaxens died in the first second, 2 dozen in the next. The beam swept across their formation like a scythe, and everywhere it touched, there was only destruction. The team stood frozen in shock. The GDA agents hovering above had stopped mid-flight, staring. Even Invincible was just staring at the dragon with his mouth open. I stood there covered in flaxen blood, robot's battery clutched in one hand, my silver rapier still glowing in the other, with a 50-foot dragon hovering protectively behind me. Yeah, I shouted at the remaining flaxens. That's right, we've got a fucking dragon. You see this shit? This is Earth, motherfuckers. We don't play. 48 comments 0 vote. Who's a good apocalypse beast? You are. I'd done it, finally pulled something decent from the gacha, and by decent I meant fucking phenomenal. I'd summoned the Blue Eyes White Dragon. The most iconic card in all of Yu-Gi-Oh!, the legendary dragon that every duelist dreamed of pulling, and it was mine for the next hour. The flaxen commanders started screaming orders in their guttural language. Even through the Temperance card's emotional dampening, I felt a spike of satisfaction watching them panic. Reinforcements. Bring the heavy armor. Surround the lizard. Concentrate fire. Within 30 seconds, the entire invasion force pivoted toward me and my dragon. Flaxen tanks rolled into formation, energy weapons charging up, and soldiers scrambling to surround us from all sides. The Blue Eyes White Dragon circled overhead once, its massive wings creating downdrafts that sent loose debris scattering across the street, then roared again for dramatic effect. RRROOAAARRRRRGHHH. Then it descended to land beside me, its claws scraping grooves into the asphalt as it settled into a protective stance. It lowered its massive head toward me, crystalline blue eyes meeting mine with intelligence. I reached up without thinking and patted its scaled snout. Good dragon, I said, my voice soft despite everything happening around us. You're such a good boy. Yes, you are. Who's a good apocalypse beast? You are. The dragon rumbled deep in its chest, mixed with a cat-like purr, as I felt the vibration through my hand. Somewhere, I heard Rexplode's voice carrying over the distance, cracking with disbelief. What in the actual fuck just happened here? I looked up at the hovering GDA agents with their jetpacks, at the team still staring at me like I'd grown a second head, at Invincible floating there with that dead civilian still cradled in his arms. I'm saving the day, I offered with a shrug. You're welcome. The Blue Eyes White Dragon nudged my shoulder gently with its snout, and I absently scratched under its jaw where the scales were slightly softer. It made that rumbling purr sound again. All right, I muttered, patting its neck. Let's fuck them up. I jumped onto the dragon's back between its shoulder blades, gripping the ridge of scales to maintain my balance while my other hand clutched Robot's battery, still absorbing the last dregs of radiation. Blue Eyes White Dragon took flight with a powerful downstroke of its wings, and suddenly we were airborne, climbing fast. Looking down at the flaxen army felt like watching insects scatter. They were so small from up here, just green dots scrambling around their tanks. The dragon opened its maw and unleashed burst stream of destruction again. White lightning carved through the alien formation like a scalpel, vaporizing soldiers and melting tanks into slag. The energy beam swept across their lines in a devastating arc, and everywhere it touched turned to molten metal. I tried to contribute by creating silver throwing knives with Blademaster, enhanced by my summoner trait, launching volleys of them at the aliens who were hiding among civilians or ducking behind cover. But my throwing skills left a lot to be desired. The knives clattered uselessly against pavement or embedded themselves in walls instead of alien flesh. Fuck, I growled, creating another batch. Why didn't I get a throwing skill? I looked around mid-flight and saw Mark still floating there in a trance, holding the old woman's body in his arms like he couldn't process what to do next. Hey, Invincible, I shouted over the sound of dragon wings. Get your head in the game. Leave her and help the living. But the kid was clearly too traumatized, flying closer to my level while muttering, I failed her. I let her die in my arms and I couldn't. Hey, I fired back, sharper this time. Now's not the time to be an emo bitch. Leave the dead and go save the dozens of living humans that actually need rescue. Pink light flashed near Mark as Adam Eve appeared in a burst of energy. She looked at the dragon with this weird expression, but then turned to Mark with urgent focus. Leave her to me, she said gently, her hands glowing pink. I'll make sure she's properly buried and laid to rest with dignity. But I need you, Invincible. You're the strongest flyer we have right now. I need you doing flybys to hospitals, helping duplicate with evacuation. Can you do that for me? Mark looked around at the chaos unfolding below. My dragon was keeping the Flaxen army at bay, his lightning breath obliterating their formations, though they were firing back now with concentrated volleys of energy weapons. Blue Eye's white dragon was too fast to get hit by most of them, dodging with surprising agility for something so massive. But the dragon still couldn't pick off individual aliens mixed in with human crowds on the ground. Mark gave the old woman's corpse to Eve carefully. Yeah, okay, he said roughly. Then dove down with renewed focus and went on his evacuation mission, carrying multiple people at once with his superior strength. Eve looked at the old woman's body for a moment, then conjured a simple coffin around her using her matter manipulation, placing it gently on top of a nearby building away from the fighting. She looked up at me and my dragon, her eyes narrowing when she saw Robot's battery still clutched in my hand, and scoffed before diving down to join the evacuation efforts. Rude, I thought. After 10 more minutes of fighting these aliens, I was getting impatient. The GDA agents kept flying around trying to establish contact with me, their voices crackling through speakers, which I mostly ignored, not to mention I couldn't quite hear over the wind and dragon roars, but they stayed well clear of Blue Eye's white dragon like they were worried he might eat them. Even another robot drone appeared to help coordinate rescue efforts, but it stayed very far away from me. Smart. And then I saw it. The scarred Flaxen commander that Invincible had injured earlier started turning gray, his skin taking on an ashen quality as he aged visibly, years passing in seconds. He looked surprised as his body began to wither. Like a cascading effect, the shade of gray spread across the rest of the aliens. Their movements slowed, their formations broke down as soldiers stumbled, suddenly decades older. They were decaying, experiencing Earth's slower timestream on their accelerated biology. Either way, they were decaying. Now's the time. I mentally slotted polymerization into my second ability slot, replacing steam emission. The fusion energy surged through me immediately, and I felt the connection to my dragon solidify into something more, our energies intertwining, preparing to merge. Feast your eyes on my most powerful form, I announced, committing fully to the anime protagonist bit. In its fully evolved glory. Fusion. 29 comments 0 vote. Fusion. Feast your eyes on my most powerful form, I announced, committing fully to the anime protagonist bit. In its fully evolved glory. Fusion. Blue and orange light swirled around me and the dragon, forming the distinctive polymerization symbol as our bodies began to merge and energy built to a blinding crescendo. Everyone on the battlefield had to squint and cover their eyes from the brilliant flash. When the light faded and they looked back up, they witnessed my new form. Image here. I was flying under my own power now, feeling the lift and pull of large wings on my back, massive draconic appendages that caught the air with each powerful stroke. Looking down at myself, my entire body was covered in stylish medieval armor from head to toe, white and blue plating that gleamed like polished steel with draconic motifs etched into every surface. Gauntlets covered my hands, ending in razor-sharp claws. But the most surprising thing was the senses. I could hear for miles in every direction, individual conversations, screams and the hum of energy weapons charging. I could see in nearly every spectrum, infrared, ultraviolet and most importantly, I could see the flow of electrical current through every living thing below, their bioelectric signatures painting the battlefield in my enhanced vision. Thank God for the Temperance card, I thought distantly. Otherwise I'd be freaking out from all these new senses flooding my brain at once. But as my power grew, so did the energy requirements to maintain this form. I was burning through my reserves too fast, the battery in my hand already drained completely empty. I could feel the hunger starting to gnaw again. I needed more fuel. I looked around with my enhanced vision and spotted another robot drone coordinating rescue efforts about 200 feet away. With a single tug of my draconic wings, I appeared behind the drone in an instant. "Sorry about this," I said, and bisected the poor thing with a single slash of my new claws. The metal shrieked as I tore through its chassis, yanking out the battery reactor before the pieces had even hit the ground. I broke apart the casing with my armored fingers, extracted the radium core, and ate it. The radiation flooded my system immediately. "Ah, that's more like it," I said in satisfaction as my energy reserves suddenly replenished to maximum capacity. Now I could move and expend power freely for at least a few more attacks before I'd need to refuel again. Adam Eve sent a pink energy blast toward me from below, her face twisted in anger. I deflected it casually with the armor on my hand, the construct shattering against draconic scales, and watched as the deflected shot veered off course and hit a Flaxen tank instead. "Stop destroying robots, drones," she screamed up at me, launching another volley of attacks. I deflected most of them, letting a few slip past deliberately so they'd hit Flaxen targets instead of wasting energy. "Shut it, potential girl," I called back. "It's wartime and I'm just rationing supplies." I flew higher above the battlefield, and now with my new senses and energy problems temporarily solved, I formed energy daggers in the air above me. The summoner trait with my fusion made everything easier to control. Dozens of them, each one crackling with electrical current from my draconic power. I sent them down as a volley, targeting individual Flaxens even when they were mixed in with human crowds, my enhanced senses letting me pick out their alien bioelectric signatures with perfect clarity. The daggers flew true this time, no more amateur throwing, just perfect guidance through my connection to the blades. They stabbed down with lightning-enhanced piercing power, destroying Flaxen soldiers whose bodies were already aging and decaying from the timestream effect. Feeling a bit chunabu from the sheer spectacle of it all, I let my inner Gilgamesh come out to play. "Rejoice, green mongrels," I announced to the battlefield below. "Witness my glory and be gone from this realm." The lightning-infused daggers rained down like divine judgment, stabbing and electrocuting the invaders whose withered bodies couldn't withstand the assault. The injured Flaxen leader finally gave the order to retreat, his voice cracking with age and defeat. I didn't let up, increasing the intensity of my attacks as the Team and GDA agents followed suit, ramping up their own assault to maximize the damage and force the aliens into full retreat. "Nakame," I reached out through our mental connection. "It's time." As the aliens started retreating toward their red dimensional portal on withered legs, a golden tatami door suddenly materialized directly in front of the portal. The heroes immediately went on guard, weapons raised toward this new unknown threat. I prepared to pour everything I had left into one final attack. I drained all remaining energy from the reactor core's radiation and fully channeled the Blue Eyes White Dragon's draconic lightning power through my Blademaster ability. It all condensed into a single straight longsword that formed in my hands, crackling with white-blue electricity. The blade crackled with white-blue electricity, power building to critical mass. I pulled it behind my head in a classic overhead slashing stance, every muscle tensed for the strike. The tatami door finally slid open, and Omni-Man himself stumbled through, still heavily wounded from his fight in the Infinity Castle. His iconic costume was shredded and burned, more red than white now from all the blood. His skin showed exposed muscle and bone in places, covered in dust and debris like he'd been smashing through walls for days. The wound on his ribs was still bleeding, refusing to close. His own exhaustion clear in every movement, barely standing. Below me, I heard Mark's voice crack with desperate hope. "Dad," but Omni-Man didn't even notice his son. Those blood-red eyes were focused solely on me with hatred so intense I could feel it physically, the mortal enemy curse radiating off him like heat. Even through the Temperance card, something cold slithered down my spine. Primal fear. The look of a predator that had found its prey. My mind snapped back to that room and suddenly Nolan's hand was around my throat again, crushing my windpipe until I couldn't breathe. The pressure built and built, his fingers digging into my neck like I was made of clay, and all I could think was that I was going to die again, right here, right now while he looked at me like I was nothing. Tears started forming in my eyes, fear and helplessness in that moment. Yeah, I needed to get rid of him right fucking now before he recovered enough to kill me. Get fucked, you inbred Viltrum. And that's a promise from John Kaisen. So, I put everything I had and everything beyond into this final attack. Draconic Excalibur. A dragon's roar filled the air, drowning out every other sound on the battlefield as I brought the blade down. The slash attack tore through the air, a crescent of pure blue draconic energy that carved a glowing arc toward Omni-Man. It struck his already burned skin and cut a line across his chest, the edge biting through Viltrumite flesh that was too weakened to fully resist. But more importantly, the massive electrical charge stunned him completely, his muscles seizing up from the lightning coursing through his body, preventing him from dodging or flying away. The sheer kinetic force of the attack launched him backward through the air like a ragdoll. Straight into the red flaxen portal. My attack followed him in, the energy blade continuing its destructive path into the dimensional rift. There was a sound like reality tearing. The portal collapsed from the inside out. My attack overloaded whatever machinery the Flaxens were using to maintain the bridge between worlds. Dimensional energies imploded as the rift sealed itself violently. Then, absurd silence followed. Everyone on the battlefield was either too confused or too awestruck to speak. The attack had carved a massive valley into the road itself, the pavement gouged out in a gaping maw-like trench that was easily 15 feet deep and stretched for 2 city blocks. Buildings on either side showed stress fractures, damage from the shockwave. I'd just carved a scar into downtown Chicago that would take months to repair. I was completely spent, my energy levels bottomed out, every muscle trembling from exertion. The fusion was dissolving, I could feel it coming apart, the connection to Blue Eyes severing as polymerization's effect ended. I saw Nakim's tatami gate still open below me. I let myself fall toward it, the armor starting to crack and dissolve into motes of light. Right before the gate closed above me, I heard a shrill roar of anguish. What did you do to him? I looked to my side and saw Mark, bruised and bloody from his evacuation efforts, launching at me at full speed with tears streaming down his face and fury in his eyes. Our eyes met through my dissolving helmet. I could only mouth one word. Sorry. The gate slammed shut above me. Mark was left attacking nothing but empty air, his fists passing through the space where I'd just been, screaming his rage and grief at a target that was already gone. I hit the wooden floor of the Infinity Castle and the impact drove the air from my lungs. The fusion dissolved completely, armor shattering into blue sparks that faded into nothing. Blue Eyes' white dragon reappeared beside me in a flash of light, the temporary fusion ended. It settled down, clearly exhausted. I went to my knees, gasping for breath, every nerve in my body screaming from energy depletion. Nakim's voice came from nearby, soft and respectful as always, but the exhaustion was clear in her tone. Welcome back, Master. Right, I was finally home. 71 comments 0 vote. I will have my revenge. Nolan's Pav. Where did things go wrong? One moment I was so close to my goal, the guardians bleeding out around me, and the next I'm trapped for days in this castle that bends and shifts in ways I didn't think possible. When I found out Mark had awakened his Viltrumite heritage despite being a late bloomer, I knew Earth's humans were the answer. The best genetic compatibility for Viltrumite DNA we'd found in centuries. This planet could finally propagate our numbers back from the edge of extinction, restore what the Scourge virus had taken from us. With all my mission criteria matched, I needed to prepare Earth for Viltrum rule and weaken its defenses. Among all these superpowered anomalies flying around, the Guardians were the priority threat. I'd made all the preparations, hacked their communication devices to send an emergency signal, gathered them all at their base in one convenient location. I'd even disabled all monitoring and surveillance in the facility so there'd be no witnesses, no recordings. It should have been clean. But there was that unknown variable. The bug wasn't supposed to be there. I was about to crush his throat when War Woman's mace struck my head from behind, cracking my skull. My grip loosened for just a second, and then that insect produced some kind of energy blade that extended and sliced across my ribs. A Viltrumide's skin, pierced by a lowly bug. The humiliation burned worse than the wound itself. And the rage, that irrational rage, it consumed everything. My training, my discipline, my mission priorities, all of it drowning in the need to kill that vermin. After that, everything went wrong. Even in combat, that vermin kept catching my attention. Every deadly punch I landed missed, or I made a mistake at the last moment because of his wound that wouldn't stop bleeding, because of that cursed gate that appeared and disappeared around me. I should have ignored him. Focus on the mission and execute the guardians. But I couldn't stop thinking about brutally killing him. It doesn't make sense. I'm a Viltrumite. We don't lose control like this. We don't become consumed by irrational hatred for insects beneath our notice. But I did. The only ones I managed to kill were Aquarius and the Immortal, and the last one was known to come back from death, so I ripped him in half before decapitating him to make sure he stayed dead this time. I'd mortally wounded the rest, disfigured them despite my own injuries piling up. Friction burns covering my chest from Red Rush's attacks, cracked ribs and skull from War Woman's mace, and a concussion that made my vision swim. But I was still pulled toward the bug. This rage bubbling up inside me like I needed to kill that boy more than I needed to breathe. I've killed thousands, slaughtered armies and conquered planets. But I've never felt this before. This need. So I moved toward him, already lying on the ground, when suddenly a gate started materializing beneath him. No, I couldn't let that vermin escape. I had to kill any and all witnesses. Needed to rip his tongue out, burn the body and erase any evidence. I stumbled forward, broke into a run, then flew at full speed. My mind took a backseat to the rage. Another gate appeared directly in front of me and the distance was too short to cancel my momentum. I flew straight through, into this castle. Before I could even process where I was, I wheeled around to get out, but the wall with the gate shifted itself, rearranging into a Japanese-style room with sliding doors and wooden floors. That's when I knew. That vermin had trapped me. It's been more than 50 hours since then. I know because I've been counting the seconds, 181,000 and climbing, each one adding to my fury. This place looks ornate, regal, like some Asian emperor's castle, but it's actually a hell house. The den of that demoness controlling it. I first heard her talking to someone she called master, probably that bug, and I was about to tear her apart when I got close enough. Even nicked her single eye. Then she plucked that go-doffel string. The place shifted. I hate that sound. Every shuffle and transformation of this cursed castle happens when that biwa string is plucked, and in these 2 days, I've heard it 113,427 times. Each pluck drills into my skull like a spike, echoing in my bones, rattling through my cracked ribs. The sound reverberates through my teeth, sets my nerves on fire, and makes my concussion throb with renewed agony. I can't escape it. My Viltrumite hearing picks up every cursed note. No matter how much I tried, the injuries were weakening me slowly but surely. The cut on my ribs kept bleeding, refusing to close properly no matter how much time passed. The friction burns made every breath feel like inhaling fire. Even my Viltrumite physique needed rest, but the rage I had for that insect kept me tearing through walls, smashing through rooms, destroying everything I could reach. I've tried nearly everything. Dive-bombing the castle from above. Flying up to where space should be. Digging down to find a foundation. It's either truly infinite or infinite from my perspective. I think I'm going mad. Lost in this place, hearing that string over and over, the same corridors appearing again and again, the same rooms rearranging themselves, mocking me with their endless repetition. Then suddenly I heard a voice from the east, or whatever passed for east in this shifting maze. This time directly addressing me. Era, is the great Nolan of Viltrum already tired from punching a few wooden walls. I flew toward the voice, tearing through everything in my path. That go-doffel string noise came again. Now the voice was distant, to my north this time. Tell me something, is your son also as much of a disappointment as you? I mean, you're technically his sperm donor, so he won't fare any better than you. Does he know you're using him as a breeding experiment? I roared, a guttural sound that tore from my throat as I flew too fast, my healing flesh wounds ripping open again. With another pluck of the string, the voice's distance and direction changed. Oh, and Debbie, sweet, naive Debbie, does she know you've been raw dogging her for eugenics? I wonder what she'd do if she found out you think of her as your breeding pet. Would she cry, or would she just finally understand what a pathetic little cuck you are for the Empire? The words dug deeper than any weapon. I've endured torture, interrogation and psychological warfare from species far older than this demoness. But she was hitting every insecurity, every doubt I've buried for 20 years. And that makes it worse. The insults continued. My master finds it tragically hilarious. You're out here playing house, pretending to be a hero, and you can't even complete the one job they gave you. Kill 7 capes. That's it. That was the assignment, and you fucked it up so badly that a random human with a glowstick bitch slapped you into my house. Tell me, does the Empire even remember your name? Or are you just another disposable agent sent to die on some backwater planet? I knew this was a trap. She was trying to agitate me, make me lose control. I was trained for psychological warfare, interrogation resistance, and mental fortitude under stress. But my condition, the mental torture of that string noise, being lost in this castle, the failure to kill that bug, this irrational obsession that I couldn't understand, it was too much. I lost my calm again and again. With a final sentence that sent shivers down my spine, a tatami door opened in front of me. You know, I've been listening to you rage for 2 days now, Nolan. You scream about Viltrum's glory, about your empire's destiny. Her voice dropping cold. I suddenly remember less than 50 of you Neanderthals remain in the entire universe, aren't I right? Maybe that scourge virus needs to be upgraded to wipe out the rest of you roaches. How does she know? The scourge virus was supposed to be our most guarded secret, known only to the highest levels of Viltrum command. Whoever or whatever she was, I needed to kill her along with that bug before they became too dangerous for the Empire. Go on, failure of Viltrum. Enjoy the freedom my master has presented you. Take that useless pride and show my master how great it is to be a dog for Viltrum. I felt a connection, a pull from the other side of the door, as if a chain was yanking my very soul to go out and find the outlet to my rage. Blinded by urgency and rage, I crossed through the door. Air, fresh air. I didn't know it could taste so good after days in that stale castle. Sunlight on my skin, ambient sounds that weren't that cursed string, even screams were soothing compared to the biwa. Wait, screams. Where was I? I took notice of my surroundings, looked below and saw those green aliens I'd dealt with before. The Flaxons, back for another invasion attempt. Some human heroes scattered across the battlefield, normal humans running for cover. But their expressions weren't fear, awe and shock, staring up at something above me. I turned to look up and my eyes widened from the sheer impossibility of what I was seeing. A man covered in medieval armor with white metal wings sprouting from his back and a helmet reminiscent of a dragon's head. No, not a man, that bug. What caught my attention was his posture, the sword extending behind his head, ready to strike. Before I could even twitch to dodge, my injuries, exhaustion, rage, the mental trauma and sudden change of environment, all compounded. I couldn't react in time. I heard that vermin's voice, sharp against my ear despite the chaos. Get fucked, you inbred Viltrum. And that's a promise from John Kaisen. Kaisen, the name burned itself into my mind like a brand. John Kaisen, the bug who ruined everything. As he yelled, Draconic Excalibur, an energy beam of blue lightning struck me. First cutting through my already burned flesh, the weakened tissue offering almost no resistance, as it carved deeper into the wound on my ribs. And then the lightning hit. My muscles seized as every nerve fired at once, paralyzed by the electrical current coursing through my body. I couldn't do anything but feel the attack pushing me backwards. Toward those red portals where the green aliens came from. I was being forced from one dimension to another, the attack's kinetic force launching me like I weighed nothing. Anger, rage and almost some excitement, all these emotions burst from my lungs as I yelled back, the only response I could give as the attack consumed me. Curse you, Kaisen. The energy attack engulfed me completely, lightning searing through my body, pushing me through the portal. The gate of the green aliens collapsed in front of me, the dimensional gate destroyed by absurd lightning coursing through it. And then I was getting dragged through the aliens' barracks, wounded and furious, with nothing but that name burning in my mind. John Kaisen, the bug who'd ruined everything. Who'd humiliated me, who'd ruined my mission. The insect I would kill even if it took me centuries to find. I am Nolan Grayson, Omni-Man, soldier of Viltrum. And I will have my revenge. 50 comments 0 vote. The cost of survival. The wooden floor of the Infinity Castle slammed into me and I felt something crack as the impact drove the air from my lungs. A rib maybe, hard to tell when everything hurt. The fusion dissolved completely, armor shattering into blue sparks that then faded into nothing. Blue Eyes White Dragon reappeared beside me in a flash of light and settled down next to me, clearly exhausted from the fight. I tried to get back on my feet but collapsed to my knees, gasping for breath, one hand pressed against my side where the rib was definitely cracked, the other braced against the floor. Every muscle in my body was screaming from pain and exhaustion, trembling with every breath taken. Not to mention I was covered in blood. Flaxen blood, bright red and sticky, coating my arms up to the elbows, splattered across my chest and face. Some of it was already drying, flaking off in crusty patches. A moment later, the smell hit my nose and God, it just felt wrong as I barely stopped myself from throwing up on the spot. Nakim's voice came from nearby, soft and respectful as always, but I could hear the exhaustion bleeding through. "Welcome back, Master." Right, I was finally home. I'd just banished Omni-Man to another dimension, destroyed a Flaxen invasion, summoned a fucking blue-eyes white dragon, killed hundreds of aliens and somehow survived all of it. "Nakame," I wheezed in a hoarse voice. "Rooms, too small. Bluey's crushing me." I looked up and realized we were in one of the smaller guest rooms, the dragon's massive bulk taking up most of the space, his wings pressed against the walls. Nakim's single eye widened in panic and she quickly struck her biwa. Twang. The castle shifted around us, walls expanding, floor dropping away and rearranging until we were teleported into the main hall where the full scale of the Infinity Castle was on display. The ceiling had more castle growing downwards from it, multiple floors visible above us, and the floor extended in all directions like an Escher painting. "Apologies, Master, I was too tired and made a mistake transporting you to the wrong room." I wanted to tell her to calm down, that it was fine, but I was too damn exhausted to speak the words. Blue-Eyes White Dragon himself flopped down with his tongue hanging out, sides heaving as he panted like an oversized dog. The poor beast had burned through everything he had today. I reached up and petted his scaly head. "Good boy." The dragon rumbled in a cat-like purr again, nuzzling into my hand despite clearly being exhausted. We stayed like that for a while, all three of us just lying on the floor trying to get our breaths even. My cracked rib throbbed with every inhale, even the flaxen blood on my skin was starting to itch. After about half an hour of this, Blue Eyes started to shimmer, the edges of his form becoming translucent as he started to dematerialize. The 1-hour summon was up. I forced myself to stand on shaky legs, ignoring the protest from my cracked rib, and walked over to him. Put my arms around his massive snout in a hug. "Hey Bluey," my voice came out rough, "if we meet again, let's go for another ride, yeah." The dragon's crystalline blue eyes met mine as he purred one last time, the vibration rumbling through my chest and vanished in motes of blue light that drifted up into buildings above. Nakame, seeing that the dragon was gone, struck her biwa again and the world shifted. One moment I was standing in the main hall, the next I was falling backward onto the softest thing I'd felt in days. The softness of the silk felt too good against my battered body as an involuntary moan escaped my mouth. Ah, Nakame appeared at the bedside, kneeling on the floor in her proper position. Still maintaining that respectful distance even though she looked ready to collapse herself. I instinctively reached down and patted her head. She went rigid for a moment. I could see the internal battle playing across her face. The ingrained servitude from her demon days warring with something else. Confusion maybe, or the simple desire for comfort after 2 days of hell. Finally, she relaxed slightly, accepting the gesture even as a faint blush colored her pale cheeks. "It's been a tough 2 days, hasn't it?" Nakame immediately tried to straighten up, the blush deepening. "This only reflects my weakness, Master. I was too weak to even open the gate exactly in front of that alien portal. I apologize." "None of that," I cut her off. "You went above and beyond for me, which I can't even say for my own family. So be proud and accept my praise. Please." She blushed harder and nodded, still fighting her own instincts, but staying still under my hand. Then the reality of what we'd just survived started sinking in. I finally asked the question I'd been avoiding. How much damage did Omni-Man cause to the castle? I needed to assess the damage. This was my haven, my... Nakim's expression turned grim as she cut my thoughts. "Nearly the whole of the barracks are destroyed, save for a few facilities like your master room, the bath, and a handful of other chambers. They can be repaired over time with my blood demon art, but it will take significant energy. Most unfortunately, any and all items stored in the barracks are lost as well. Clothing, food supplies, bedding for the guest rooms. All destroyed." She paused, her single eye meeting mine. "Unfortunately, Master, I won't be able to trap that Viltrumid monster another time. Not unless I'm willing to destroy the whole castle to give you a moment to escape." That sent a chill down my spine. I nodded, remembering the look on that bastard's face as I'd banished him to the Flaxen dimension. Pure rage and hatred focused entirely on me. But Master, Nakame said, as a hint of hope appeared in her voice. Since you banished the monster to that alien dimension, even I felt the connection to that dimension close off after your attack damaged their portal. Perhaps he's trapped there permanently. I sighed. It's not that simple. The Flaxen dimension has its time sped up drastically compared to Earth. A single day here is nearly 2 years for them. Omni-Man will either conquer them and force them to open another portal to Earth. Or. I paused, thinking about it. Given that he's clearly injured, weakened, and absolutely rage-fueled, he could very well wipe their entire race off the map to prevent them from being a future obstacle for his goal of conquering Earth. Might take him a few decades their time, which is like a week here. Look at me casually accepting that I could very well have caused the extinction of an entire alien species. But I wasn't as affected as I probably should be. Maybe I did inherit something from my father after all. His coldness and heartless nature when it came to consequences. The thought made my stomach turn slightly, but I pushed it away. I knew Omni-Man would be back eventually, and the best thing to do would be to hide and get stronger before that happened. The only thing I could rely on was the gacha. And speaking of the gacha, I pulled up my notifications and heard the series of dings that were music to my tired ears. Feat achieved. First time flying reward, plus 1x bronze random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. First public power usage reward, plus 1x bronze random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. Jump off mid-flight reward, plus 1x bronze random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. First named attack reward, plus 1x bronze random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. Escape GDA custody reward, plus 1x bronze random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. Destroy first droid reward, plus 1x bronze random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. Let your inner Chunabu out reward, plus 1x bronze random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. Infrastructure destruction reward, plus 1x bronze random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. First murder reward, plus 1x silver random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. Glutton for radiation reward, plus 1x silver random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. Made impression on Teen Team reward, plus 1x silver random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. Saved Invincible's life reward, plus 1x silver random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. Announce yourself to the world reward, plus 1x silver random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. Dragon Rider reward, plus 1x silver random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. First fusion reward, plus 1x silver random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. Destroy alien army's portal reward, plus 1x gold random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. First massacre reward, plus 1x gold random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. Saved thousands of human lives reward, plus 1x gold random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. Reclaimed your base reward, plus 1x gold random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. Banished Omni-Man to another dimension reward, plus 1x platinum random gacha ticket. Feat achieved. Saved a city from alien invasion reward, plus 1x platinum random gacha ticket. Oh boy, did I hit the motherlode. The gambling addict in me perked up immediately, exhaustion forgotten in the face of new pulls. Fighting an alien army head-on while exposing my powers was totally worth. But I stopped mid-celebration as 2 notifications stuck out sharply in my eyes. First murder, and first massacre. There was a lump in my throat that I could neither swallow nor spit out. Something heavy settling in my chest that made it hard to breathe, and it wasn't just the cracked rib. Have I, John Strange fake, heir to the fake family fortune, been reduced to a murderer? Much less a mass murderer. The flaxen soldier's face flashed through my mind. The moment my rapier went through his eye socket. How easy it had been. How smoothly the blade had slid through bone and brain matter. He'd been a person with a family back in his dimension. And I'd killed him without any hesitation whatsoever. Seeing the color of my face change, Nakame asked quietly, "Master, is everything alright?" I rigidly turned my neck towards her. "Nakame, how do you deal with it? With killing people, I mean. With murder." She became serious immediately, turning to face me more directly. Then, in a move that surprised me given how much feudalism was instilled in her, she shifted from kneeling on the floor to sitting on the edge of the bed. "For me, they are just food. As simple as that." Her voice was matter of fact. "Even before I became a demon, I used to kill someone before my performances, as the tension enhanced my music and made it more beautiful. It was a habit I picked up after I killed my husband with an axe. The casual way she said it should have been shocking. Maybe it would have been, before today. But I'd just killed hundreds of beings myself. Who was I to judge? I was about to follow up with more questions when her single eye focused directly on mine with complete conviction in what she's about to say. Master, you killed because the situation demanded it. Those creatures were slaughtering innocents. Would you have preferred to let them continue? She paused, making sure I was listening. It doesn't matter who or what you kill, Master. You are my master. How could someone as honorable as you be tied down to such pitiful moral philosophy? You killed them because it was war. That's all that matters. Yeah, she was right. I was just defending myself, wasn't I? Plus, those green freaks were killing innocents and would continue trying to conquer Earth in the future. Hell, Omni-Man might do me and humanity a favor and genocide them off the face of the universe permanently. The lump of saliva went down in an audible gulp as I accepted Nakim's logic. After all, I wasn't some two-bit murderer. I had some class. I am a gambler after all. 36 comments 0 vote. First meta gamble. Lock in, guys. The rolls are here. Comment your rolls so I can laugh at your luck or cry at mine. Remember to drop them stones and reviews. Thanks, Nakame, I said quietly. I needed to hear that. She bowed her head slightly, accepting my gratitude without making a big deal out of it. I pulled up the gacha interface again and stared at the 21 tickets waiting to be rolled. 8 bronze, 7 silver, 4 gold, and 2 platinum. Each and every one of them was a bloody receipt earned from pain, sweat, and nearly getting my ass completely killed by a Viltrumite while fighting off a goddamn alien invasion. The itch was back, that familiar craving that came with every new ticket. I could save these, roll them later when I wasn't half dead and covered in dried alien blood. But the thought of waiting, of not knowing what I'd get, of having these tickets just sitting there unrolled. Fuck that, time to gamble it all away, I thought, as a manic grin spread across my face even as my broken rib screamed in protest. Let's begin with an appetizer. I mentally tore the first bronze ticket, feeling that familiar rush as the gacha spun. But before I could even see the wheel, a virtual 20-sided rainbow die materialized right in front of me, tumbling through the air. What the actual fuck? I just stared at it, my brain momentarily flatlining. Oh man, is this the gambler trait? This is so exhilarating. The die finally clattered to a stop on an 11 as the gacha started rolling. Confused, I actually had to stop and reread the gambler trait description. 20 equals ticket rank up. 1917 equals advantage ticket. 1613 equals change ticket type. 12:8 equals nothing happens. 7:2 equals ticket rank down. 1 equals ticket is destroyed. So basically, a 35% chance of losing something, a 25% chance of a neutral play, and a 40% chance of actually gaining something. These were way better odds than the Russian roulette I'd played. But the real kicker was that 5% chance of the ticket ranking up and getting destroyed, each. That right there, that was where the true fun was hiding. As I ran the math in my head, the first bronze ticket finished rolling. D20 roll, 11, nothing happens. Lesser hydrokinesis. Uncommon ability, allows you to create and control water around yourself telekinetically. It is not particularly powerful but it is still very versatile and precise. I read the text twice. Water, really? Then, I felt a sudden and strange feeling wash over my brain, like someone poured ice-cold water over it. I suddenly became hyper-aware of the moisture around me. As I pulled on that new awareness, water droplets actually began to condense on my palm right out of the thin air. What the hell? I managed to ask myself. Isn't this another ability? That made 11 abilities total, which meant I only needed 4 more to unlock the platinum pool for temporary summons. Even though the ability was offensively useless right now, its utility couldn't just be ignored, especially for survival scenarios where clean water was a luxury. My hands moved before I could stop them as I tore all the remaining bronze tickets simultaneously. Watching as 7 multicolored dice rolled concurrently across my vision, I was just awestruck by the sheer, chaotic beauty of chance taking over my future 7 different ways at once. Better than a threesome, I tell you. D20 roll, 12, nothing happens. Drunk driver, trash trait. It's the drunk crashers that give drunk drivers a bad name. The more inebriated you are, the more skilled you are at driving and operating vehicles. Again, nothing happens. Honestly, the trait wasn't half bad, considering but I cut myself off from that embarrassing memory. D20 roll. 9. Nothing happens. Heavy rock. Trash item. An otherwise ordinary and unremarkable head-sized rock that is always ever so slightly heavier than the maximum weight of whoever tries to lift it can lift. Who even makes this shit? Again, nothing happens. Maybe I was sweating for nothing since the gambler trait was treating me pretty well. Although the rock was trash, I figured I could use it to kite enemies just like I did with my beautiful tank I'd dropped on the Flaxons. D20 roll. 5. Ticket rank down. Bronze right pointing arrow none. The fuck, now it hits me with this shit. Was I feeling a little too good and the universe decided it needed to balance the scales by robbing me? It even deleted my ticket probably because this one was already bottom tier. Don't worry, my luck will turn, I muttered, trying to keep my heart rate steady as I looked over the next roll. D20 roll. 1. Ticket is destroyed. Motherfucker, I shouted, my voice cracking violently. Nakame immediately looked up, her eye wide with worry as she leaned forward. Master, are your injuries turning bad? Should I open a gate to a hospital? No, nothing like that, I groaned, pressing my forearm hard against my broken rib and wincing at the sharp, blinding spike of pain. Well, maybe later for this rib, but it's just my dogshit luck acting up again. She started playing her biwa in a smooth, steady rhythm, her way of trying to soothe my frayed nerves. It wasn't long before I felt my breathing evening out slightly. I looked at the next roll. D20 roll. 10. Nothing happens. Scrap iron candy. Common item. Black souls. Tastes like its name. When consumed, bolsters the user's defense for 30 minutes. Restock timer. 8 hours. Nothing happened, which was vastly preferred over getting my precious tickets dusted. Plus, I got a consumable that boosts my defense for when things inevitably go sideways again. D20 roll. 9. Nothing happens. Havel's Great Shield. Uncommon item. Dark Souls, a shield of magical stone wielded by Havel the Rock. Wielding this shield grants enhanced durability and the user can expend energy to cover their body in stone to further reinforce their body. Finally, some defensive shit. Where the hell was this when I was getting tossed through the air by Omni-Man like a literal ragdoll? Not that it would have helped significantly against a pissed off Viltrumit, but at least I could have felt a little less squishy. D20 roll. 14. Change ticket type. Finally, a positive result. Now what should I change it to? I looked at my current build and it was scattered as hell. My eyes widened looking at the poor skills section that was still empty. How in the hell is my curses section more filled than my skills section? But I chose an ability type ticket instead of skill. If I could just scrounge up 4 more abilities, I'd unlock the platinum pool for my temporary summons, and that was way too good of a prize to pass up. Arc. Uncommon ability. Allows you to channel electricity through your body and discharge. With training you can channel where your electricity goes to aim it more precisely. I felt a sudden, sharp tingling jolt through the entirety of my body, involuntarily twitching from the raw sensation of electricity flooding straight into my veins. Feels exactly like that electric massage session I took at that sketchy spa. Now I stared at my 7 silver tickets, my hands practically vibrating as I tore them all at once. I whispered, "Come on, baby, give it to me." D20 roll. 3. Ticket rank down. Silver right pointing arrow bronze. Flexible. Common trait. You are inordinately flexible, even more so than an expert contortionist. Another ticket rank down. I was biting my thumb from a nervous tick when the joint suddenly bent all the way back without me even noticing. Strange limberness settled deep into my muscles, spreading through my whole body. Definitely useful for dodging attacks, but it still physically hurts to watch my silver ticket roll down to bronze. I moved my eyes to the next roll. D20 roll. 17. Advantage. Harem King. Rare trait. You are a harem king to be. Your preferred partners are more attracted to you and society as a whole does not see a problem with you having a harem. In addition, your partners do not mind you dating others either. They might still have their own problems but the concept of a harem isn't one of them. OR. Pacifism. Uncommon trait. With pacifism, you are able to turn off your killing potential. Even if you hit a medieval serf with a final flash, he will still be alive albeit barely. I literally had to stop and stare at the glowing letters. Harem King. Are you kidding me? I knew that I was not the sharpest tool in the shed, but surely the system didn't expect me to be mentally invalid, right? The choice was almost insultingly easy, because of course I chose pacifism. The ability to not accidentally kill someone from going too hard was too good to leave, especially in this universe where casualties were already too numerous to even count. This could have saved some of those flaxens. Not that I was losing sleep over it, but having the option would be nice. Not to mention harem shit was for simp losers who'd never dealt with a woman in their life. Anyone with even a shred of fucking sense could tell you how much of a migraine it was just maintaining a relationship with one girl. Juggling multiple of them, now that was a special kind of hell. Nah, mama didn't raise no simp, I declared, locking in pacifism without a second of hesitation. D20 roll, 14, change ticket type. Okay, now my luck's finally turning around. Maybe Nakim's music really is bringing me luck. I obviously chose an ability type ticket again, my mind fixated on getting so incredibly close to that fourth ability slot. Cat form, uncommon ability, you are able to turn into a cat or a cat hybrid at will. Gaining enhanced agility, senses, reflexes, claws, and sharp teeth as well as any other characteristics the average cat would possess. I felt a literal switch flip in my brain, as cat ears and a tail sprouted out of me instantly. I tried to stay calm and assess them, but the damn tail was moving entirely on its own, repeatedly swatting me right in the face. Image here, I caught it with both my hands, forcing it to stop, only to hear a soft, muffled sound. Foo, foo. When I turned, I saw Nakame covering the lower half of her face with her kimono sleeves, her shoulders shaking as she tried to suppress laughter. Et tu, Nakame? I asked in pure indignation, quickly switching the ability off. I finally regained some normalcy, much to the dismay of Nakame as I saw her face drop back into a subtle frown. Weird, was she this expressive when we first met? 50 comments 0 vote. The Gambler's high. Weird, was she this expressive when we first met? Whatever, I moved on to the next roll. D20 roll, 14, change ticket type. Woo, yeah baby, let's keep the streak going. I chose ability as fast as my mind would let me. Barrier of Light, uncommon ability, allows the user to create a barrier of light magic. While not as sturdy, it is easy to deploy and is great for defending against curses, spirits and negative status effects. I felt a warmth bloom in the center of my palms, like a pilot light igniting. Even though curses weren't as prevalent in the Invincible Universe as they were in other settings, they were still a sure thing with demons and supernatural entities running around. Better to have it, especially with Damien Darkblood poking his infernal nose around. D20 roll, 10, nothing happens. Blood fuel, common trait. Hell is not full. Your blood functions as fuel, high-quality fuel that can be substituted for basically any kind of fuel that any machine would otherwise take, such as gasoline, diesel, electricity, etc. Suddenly my blood boiled for a terrifying second. I bit my lip hard, holding back a groan before it finally cooled down, letting out a shaky breath as I felt the blood rushing through my veins with an entirely new and heavy vigor. Well, as long as I got a blood multiplying power eventually, I could be worry-free about running out of gas. Alright, let's keep this streak going. Maximum effort. D20 roll, 5, ticket rank down, silver right pointing arrow bronze. Scenic wind. Trash trait, the scenic wind favors you, making your clothes and hair flutter majestically, even in impossible weather conditions and indoors whenever it is opportune. I knew the streak was too good to last. My beautiful silver ticket got violently downgraded into bronze trash. What the actual fuck would I do with this? Or a farm and mog people with my majestic hair? Wait, that's not bad. Before I could even finish the thought, the next roll stopped. D20 roll, 6, ticket rank down, silver right pointing arrow bronze. Pepsi Man. Trash familiar. Pepsi Man, gives Pepsi whenever he can. When summoned Pepsi arrives at your location through any means before delivering everyone in the location a fresh can of Pepsi before disappearing. 8-hour cooldown. Note: this familiar is not sponsored by the Pepsi Corporation. Okay, what in the Freaky Friday fuck was this shit? I stood up and started pacing around the room, completely ignoring the flare of pain in my side, causing Nakame to worry all over again. This shit was rigged, I tell you. I was gesturing wildly now, that RNGesus bastard must have rigged it. I suddenly felt another mental connection forming, similar to Nakim's but different. Weaker. Stupider. I focused on my familiar space, and there he was, a faceless humanoid covered half in silver and half in blue with the Pepsi logo plastered on his chest like a corporate wet dream. It looked up, sensing my presence, and offered me a bottle of soda. Pepsi. I wanted to scream. A corporate mascot, really? Master, please lie down, you need to rest. Nakame glided over and firmly guiding me back onto the bed. I just sighed heavily, rubbing my temples, and chanted, all is well, while tapping my chest, a dumb technique I'd seen in that Bollywood movie, Three Idiots, or something. Now I finally moved to my gold tickets. I closed my eyes and started praying to all the Robs betting on my life. Please, 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 ask that RNG bastard to stop rigging the tickets. I promise to give you guys the best entertainment. I finally tore all 3 of my gold tickets at once. D20 roll, 15, change ticket type. Yes, finally another type change. Thank the Robs for this gift. I changed it to an ability type ticket in a heartbeat. Wind flight, rare ability, allows you to push off of the air around you, allowing you to fly with precision and power. Something unlocked deep in the core of my body as the wind around me moved in a tight circle, almost as if it were greeting me. I felt the refreshing coolness the breeze brought, despite us being in a closed-off dimension. A genuine smile breaking out on my face as I heard the system ding. 15 abilities collected, 4th ability slot added. Hell yeah, I fist-pumped the air in sheer excitement. Fucking finally. Even though there was still a chance I could roll absolute trash familiars like holy cow, may her soul rest in peace, the upside was too massive not to be excited about. I wanted to celebrate more, to ride that high, but another roll suddenly came to a halt. D20 roll, 10, nothing happens. Goblin glider, uncommon item. Spider-Man, a high-tech glider that can fly at great speeds and can be controlled by the user's mind. It also has bladed edges to be used as a weapon. It includes some storage space for your needs if needed. It gets refueled every 8 hours, and as long as it is not completely damaged, it will slowly repair itself. Well, I mean it was cool and all, but wind flight could already help me fly and carry others with me. Not to mention this thing didn't even come with those incinerating grenades from the movies. They would have been an absolute game changer for taking down the tougher freaks in this universe. Still, free storage space. I'd take it. Moving on. I watched the 3rd gold roll slowly grind to a stop. D20 roll 8, nothing happens. Tickets please. Rare trait. Allows you to withdraw your tickets as physical, tangible tickets that you can hand over to other people. If someone else rips the ticket, they will get the result of the roll instead, subject to the same rules as the user. I stopped to carefully read the description. Why the hell would I ever use this? My tickets, my gacha were my secret I have on everyone else. What a waste of gold ticket. I finally watched the final gold roll to come to a halt. D20 roll 19, advantage. Iron nerves, uncommon trait. Your nerves are made of iron, you don't flinch or get startled, and this does not affect your reflexes. OR, Bajiquan, rare skill. You are an apprentice in Bajiquan, a Chinese martial art specializing in explosive short-range attacks and aggressive forward momentum to break through enemy defenses. With sufficient mastery over Bajiquan, you can enhance your strikes with your internal energy. Fuck yeah, another advantage. Thank the Robs. I quickly scanned through the options and chose iron nerves without a second of hesitation. I know, I was just yapping about not having enough skills in my arsenal. I didn't think myself some tough badass or anything. No, I just figured that I was a dumbass who panicked under pressure. I couldn't afford to always be nervous, making stupid, jittery mistakes while trying to scrape by on luck alone. The trait finally settled into my system, and I suddenly became much more rigid in my posture as my breathing evened out. Though, I wouldn't know how well it actually worked until I was neck deep in some shitshow again. Now I moved to my most precious tickets. I took my time, soaking in all the details of the glowing platinum tickets before tearing them both. 2 20-sided dice tumbled through the air, filling my stomach with this intensely vibrating nervous energy. Man, the thrill of this was so incredibly addictive. God, I wished I could live in this specific moment forever. But alas, all things come to an end. D20 roll, 11, nothing happens. Insurance policy, elite trait. It's quite a shame when your beloved familiars die, that's why you should always get them insured. Whenever a familiar of yours dies, they will get revived in your familiar space, but in the process of reviving they will be using your energy reserves to heal themselves and be left in a temporary weakened state for several days afterwards. If you have a familiar that automatically revives, they revive 50% faster and need 50% less energy to revive. Nakame and I both physically felt our connection thrum, growing undeniably stronger as another thick layer was added to it. Oh right, there was that Pepsi man too, but I tried my hardest not to think about him right now. All my chaotic, racing energy just stopped as I processed the result. This was such a perfect pull, especially given my heavy, borderline desperate dependence on Nakame and the Infinity Castle. At the very least, I could finally have some solid insurance that I wouldn't lose my only safe haven if something went horribly wrong out there. Now I had insurance, literally. All hail RNGesus. I knew you always believed in me. Thank you for this. The final roll stopped. D20 roll. 12. Nothing happens. True hero. Epic trait. You are the true hero blessed by the divines themselves. All light and holly-based abilities are greatly enhanced alongside your physical abilities. Beings aligned with the divine clergy are more favorable toward you and are more likely to view you with reverence and affection, and to reward you for your merits and service to them. In addition, all blessings are stronger and last longer on you. Whenever you are combating a creature in order to save someone, you gain a temporary enhancement to all of your stats depending on your willpower and the stakes. I just stared at the holographic text. What's this shit? Me, a true hero, the guy who just slaughtered thousands of flaxens a few hours ago. I wasn't a saint, I wasn't some goody two-shoes, and who the hell would I actually be willing to sacrifice myself for besides maybe Nakame at this point? What a monumental waste of a platinum ticket. Though, the physical stat boost and holy ability enhancement could be useful. Okay, maybe not completely useless. Just hilariously ironic. It was my final, cynical thought as sleep finally rose up to take me. The endorphins from the gacha rush completely flatlined, leaving heavy exhaustion to crash over my battered body. Heavy, crushing exhaustion that my addiction had been holding at bay. My cracked rib throbbed, the dried flaxen blood on my skin itched and every muscle ached. As the endless chase of the rolls finally stopped, I let myself drift off into unconsciousness, as the soft strumming of Nakim's biwa played in the background, acting as a lullaby. I really am addicted to this shit. Couldn't even wait until I wasn't half dead to roll them all. Mama would be so disappointed. Good thing she's not here to see it. 46 comments 0 vote. House intervention. As I was drifting deeper and deeper into what should have been a peaceful sleep, that irritatingly familiar voice knocked me right back over the edge of my consciousness. Wake up, Star. We need to talk. What the actual fuck? I looked up groggily and found RNGesus standing there in his full, absurd glory with that screen instead of a head rolling multiple symbols continuously like a slot machine running on repeat. Image here. Was I hallucinating? Was this a side effect of the alien blood seeping into my pores? Surprised by seeing the divine entity again so soon, I couldn't help but say, is this going to be a regular thing now? Because I'm really tired and I'd like to sleep for at least 8 hours straight without divine intervention. But seeing absolutely no quips and noticing the sudden, dead serious demeanor of RNGesus, I calmed down a bit because this clearly wasn't a social call. John, I'm sorry to say this, but I've made a terrible mistake. My heart rate instantly spiked. I immediately got nervous at those words and thought, what? Was I not supposed to transmigrate here in the first place? Or did he finally hear me cursing him out during the gacha rolls and now he's pissed? I quickly stuttered, desperately trying to save my own ass. Hey Lord RNGesus, if this was about me saying something harsh during the rolls, please know it was just a very stressful situation and I didn't mean most of it. Plus I even praised you multiple times and... But he stopped me mid-ramble with a simple, tired raise of his hand. Kid, I completely overlooked a group of Robs trying to alter the outcomes of the betting pool by tweaking your curse loadout. What? I said dumbly. Why the hell would they even need to mess with me? I'm just a no-name transmigrator. Yeah, it turned into a massive scandal when it finally came out. RNGesus sighed, his screen flickering with static that looked a hell of a lot like anger. A few universes got completely destroyed just to detain those cheating Rob bastards, RNGesus said while his screen flickered with 3 consecutive skulls and bones. You see, they tweaked your mortal enemy curse to specifically be Omni-Man. A guy who is clearly a mythical level being at minimum, thus artificially pushing the odds heavily against you surviving past the first month. He paused, letting the sheer weight of that statement hang in the void. Are you fucking kidding me? My ribs were currently cracked in half. I had almost been turned into a red smear on the pavement by a mustached alien fascist, and it was all because of a clerical error by a bunch of cheating cosmic bookies. He paused to let the gravity of it all fall on me. Anyway, RNGesus continued, waving his hand dismissively, we've all decided to properly compensate you for the unfair tweak to your challenge. Since we can't change the cursed target without derailing the whole bet, here's a platinum random gacha ticket as an apology. I just stared at the glowing ticket manifesting in his hand. A platinum ticket. These bastards were just going to sideline my trauma of nearly dying from Omni-Man with just a measly platinum ticket. No, listen here, mister. I snarled, my anger completely overriding my fear of the divine as I forced myself to stand up straighter despite my exhaustion. I am a gambler through and I take this shit very seriously. Out of all the trades and professions in the entire world, gambling is the most noble profession because it's the fairest of them all. It doesn't see your caste or creed or race or social standings when you sit down at the table. You think I, a man who lived and died on pure chance alone, will tolerate your so-called gods rigging the game against me and then trying to buy me off with? Right in the middle of my angry, self-righteous monologue, RNGesus suddenly produced another platinum random gacha ticket out of thin air. My tongue immediately went slack. I dropped to my knees instantly, throwing my dignity completely out the window, and said in the most sincere, bootlicking voice I could manage, I always believed in your fair judgment and just rulings, O great and merciful first gambler. RNGesus nearly had a whiplash as 3777s rolled across his screen face as he let out a chuckle that quickly devolved into full-on manic cackling. Ha 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 ha, thanks, kid, I really needed that laugh after that dumpster fire of an incident, he wheezed, slapping his knee. I was seriously pissed at those unfair cheating cucks, not to mention it completely ruined my date with Lady Luck earlier. Speaking of Lady Luck, my brain suddenly connected two dots that I really wished it hadn't. Wait, I asked, looking up at him, does that mean all of the bad luck throughout this new life was because of these shitface Robs cursing me with bad luck from the very beginning? Only for RNGesus, who had just begun to calm down from his laughing fit, stared at me for a second before he started wheezing all over again. Sorry to break it to you kid, but that rotten luck is all you. 100% pure natural, baby. Fuck me sideways and laugh while I'm getting fucked I guess. I thought bitterly as I took the ticket from his outstretched hand and immediately tore the platinum ticket first in a somewhat downcast mood since I'd already had a pretty bad experience with the gacha. The familiar 20-sided die materialized in front of me, tumbling rapidly through the air. This immediately piqued RNGesus' interest as he leaned forward. Oh, you got the gambler trait already? Man, I seriously need to catch up on all the episodes I missed. Ignoring him casually treating my entire life as a Netflix binge watch for his viewing pleasure, I focused entirely on the multicolored die as it tumbled through the air and finally landed on 12. D20 roll, 12, nothing happens. I let out a massive sigh of relief at getting the safest possible result. RNGesus just burst out laughing again, haha. In front of the literal embodiment of gambling and chance itself you got the safest and most boring option without even getting a downgrade. Kid, your luck is really uniquely terrible in the most fascinating way. I may even gift you to Lady Luck as a specimen for her to study. I just tuned out the god's commentary, my eyes glued to the gacha wheel as my platinum tire roll finally came to a complete, agonizing halt. Please be useful, I chanted repeatedly in my head like a prayer. Limit break, epic ability, time to go all out. Upon activating limit break, for 4 minutes and 11 seconds all parameters and energy regeneration are increased. In addition, your ability slots are removed, allowing you to use all abilities at once. This ability places immense strain on your body and can kill you. 7-day cooldown. Hell yeah, I roared out loud and high-fived the completely stunned god before doing violent air guitar motions as he just stuttered in confusion. Why are you celebrating so hard? RNGesus asked, his screen displaying a giant question mark. This is honestly a pretty average roll for platinum tier. You could have easily gotten a legendary tire pull. Plus, this specific skill can very easily kill you if you're not careful about how you use it. I stopped my air guitar solo and turned to face him with the most serious expression I could manage. With the last diamond roll I got being just a fucking head pat trait, I'll take this ability any second of any day without hesitation. Not to mention that 4 minutes and 11 seconds is exactly the same duration as Hikari's domain expansion from Jujutsu Kaisen, and he's literally one of my idols. Always bet on Hikari. RNGesus suddenly came up to me as I was pumping my fist victoriously in the air and pulled me into a tight hug as I felt what looked like pixelated tears precipitating from his screen face. With the euphoric high of rolling a Hikari-level ability still buzzing violently in my veins, I didn't even hesitate. I immediately ripped the second platinum ticket. The 20-sided rainbow die popped into existence again, tumbling through the air. Come on, baby, give me another banger. I cheered. The die clattered, it bounced, it spun, and it landed on a 5. D20 roll, 5 ticket rank down, platinum right pointing arrow gold. My stomach dropped straight into my colon. Are you fucking kidding me? I screamed, my voice cracking so hard I sounded like a prepubescent choir boy. It was platinum, it was right there. I watched in pure horror as my beautiful, pristine platinum ticket literally fractured and violently downgraded itself into a measly gold ticket. RNGesus threw his head back and burst into applause, his screen flashing bright neon jackpot colors. Yes, yes, that's the stuff, he hollered, clapping his hands like he was sitting front row at a stadium. That right there, that's the true essence of the gamble, Johnny boy. The agonizing, ball-crushing sting of the downgrade. Welcome to the big leagues. I wanted to strangle him, but I was entirely helpless as the now gold ticket spun in the gacha interface and finally clicked into place. Draw of fate, rare trait, your fate is strong, things are not moderate for you, destiny curves in your direction like a main protagonist. You have plenty of luck, bad and good. I just stared at the holographic text. What the hell is this? I muttered. More of my own luck. My luck already got me jumped by a fascist alien. Why would I want more of it? Was the universe seriously doubling down on my already bipolar luck? RNGesus leaned over my shoulder to read the screen. For a split second, he was entirely silent. And then, he lost his goddamn mind. He dropped straight to the floor, slapping his hand against the metaphysical ground in a fit of hysterical, wheezing laughter. Ha 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 ha, oh my god, I can't breathe. Hey, asshole, I snapped, my face burning with a mix of embarrassment and genuine fear. I'm out here fighting for my actual life, and you're laughing like this is a goddamn sitcom. Are you kidding me? RNGesus gasped for air, wiping pixelated tears from his screen. It's absolute cinema. You already have the worst, most organically dogshit luck in that universe, and now you just rolled a trait that forces the universe to treat you like a shonen protagonist. The sheer, unadulterated chaos, the Robs are gonna completely lose their shit watching this. He wheezed again, pulling himself up from the floor to pull me into a tight, incredibly awkward hug. Oh my, such misfortune. Such poverty of luck, truly, Mistress Luck can be cruel to her chosen specimens, he said in a voice that was thick with emotion. He patted my back awkwardly. Don't worry, kid, I'm rooting for you to succeed in this crazy challenge. You've got heart. Was the actual god of gamblers taking pity on me? That was my final coherent thought as everything suddenly went black around me and I heard him call out from very far away, his voice fading into the distance. See you soon, kid. Stay strong out there. I'll try my best to catch up with all the episodes I missed. And finally, my consciousness completely faded away into the darkness as exhaustion claimed me once again. 52 comments 0 vote. The fallout social media, the internet was a goddamn war zone. Twitter, Reddit, 4chan, Instagram, TikTok, every single platform was burning to the ground with shaky, pixelated phone footage of the Flaxen invasion. Trending number 1 worldwide, Dragon Guy. Trending number 2, hashtag Flaxen invasion. Trending number 3, hashtag Chicago massacre. Trending number 4, hashtag Where is Omni-Man. Trending number 5, hashtag Invincible New Hero. People were losing their fucking minds. Half the globe was calling this unknown John Guy the new savior of Earth. Clips of him summoning a literal blue eyes white dragon were hitting millions of views per minute, the algorithm working overtime to push the footage to every corner of the internet. At HeroWatcher99, Bro summoned a mythic dragon while Adam Eve made pink bubbles LMAOOO. Dragon Guy greater than Teen Team. Don't at me. At Invincible fan account. Give some respect to Invincible. Dude took hits like a champ and saved dozens of civilians. New budding hero right there. Hashtag Invincible for Guardians. At ChicagoLocal44, I was there. I saw it. That dragon was the size of a fucking luxury hotel skull. It incinerated an entire battalion of aliens in one breath. At Super Theories, okay, but what is that dragon? It looks exactly like the dragon from that old card game. Is this guy a weeb? Did anime just save the planet? I have so many questions. At Teen Team Daily, Adam Eve, Invincible, Rexplode, Duplicate, and Robot all confirmed at the scene. Reports of Robot being destroyed twice. Teen Team might be in over their heads with this one. At Conspiracy Carl, wake up sheeple. John, Shows up out of nowhere with dragon powers and dimensional gates the same day as an alien invasion. This was a false flag. He probably brought the aliens here to make himself look like a hero. Hashtag false flag, hashtag Dragon Gate. At Secret Service Fan Club, government is probably already all over this. The Secret Service doesn't miss. This, John, guy is either getting recruited or blackbagged. No in between. At Rexplodasimp, can we talk about how Rexplode got absolutely bodied in that fight? Like my man got knocked out in the first 5 minutes. Still hot though. Fire. At Duplicate Protection Squad, Kate used her powers to save so many people, and all anyone talks about is the dragon guy. Put some respect on Duplicate's name. She died multiple times for you ungrateful assholes. At Kaisen's life, OMG he's so hot, heart how could someone so beautiful be a villain, smiling face. At Dragon Deer Rider, I would like his sweat off the floor if he told me to yummy face. But then, around 11:47 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the tone shifted violently. As a new video dropped on Twitter account, at AnonyMouseWitnessG. The footage was high definition, clearly shot on an expensive phone with image stabilization. It showed the impossible. Omni-Man, Earth's greatest hero. The protector of the planet. The man who'd saved the world more times than anyone could count. He was beaten and bloody. His iconic white and red suit was shredded and burned. He stumbled out of some bizarre, floating Japanese wooden door that hung in midair. The timestamp on the video was 3:42 p.m., right in the middle of the Flaxen attack. Omni-Man looked around, disoriented, like he didn't know where he was. And then, a massive crescent slash of blue energy, easily 30 feet wide, carved through the air and slammed directly into his chest. The impact was catastrophic. The shockwave shattered windows for 3 city blocks. Omni-Man was thrown backward like a ragdoll, his body tumbling through the air directly toward the collapsing green Flaxen portal. Right before the portal snapped shut with a sound like fabric tearing, the audio picked up his voice. A furious, booming scream that shook the phone's speakers. Curse you, Kaisen. It sounded exactly like a villain monologue from a comic book. The hatred in those 3 words was palpable, raw and visceral. The video ended. The internet went completely, utterly silent for about 5 seconds. Before, it exploded, again. At Breaking News Global, Omniman banished to alien dimension by unknown super. Video evidence attached. Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. At Omniman, someone save him. He's trapped in another dimension. The government needs to ACT now. At Conspiracy Carl, I fucking called it. John Kaisen is a villain. He attacked Omniman. This was his plan all along. At Hero News Network, breaking, Omni-Man allegedly attacked by Dragon Guy, identified as John Kaisen and forced through Flaxen portal. At Omniman Defense Squad, this is propaganda. Omni-Man would never lose to some random. This video is clearly edited. Hashtag fake news, hashtag defend Omni-Man. At John Kaisen. Okay, so let me get this straight. This, John Kaisen, guy, 1. Summons a dragon, 2. Fuses with said dragon like a fucking anime protagonist, 3. Carves a canyon through downtown Chicago, 4. Attacks Omniman, 5. Banishes Earth's greatest hero to an alien dimension. And we're supposed to believe he's a good guy. At Teen Team Daily. Update, Adam Eve was seen flying with Invincible toward residential area. At Guardians of the Globe fan, the Guardians of the Globe has been missing in this grave ordeal. Where are they? Now something is seriously wrong. The GDA is hiding something. At Superpower Scaling. Okay power scalers, let's break this down. John Kaisen in Dragon Fusion form produced an attack that 1. Carved a 15-foot deep trench through reinforced roads, 2. Damaged structural integrity of buildings for 2 city blocks, 3. Generated enough kinetic force to launch Omniman through a portal. That puts him easily in Styre. At Viltrumite fun fact, Viltrumites are nearly invincible. The fact that John Kaisen hurt Omni-Man badly enough to knock him through a portal means this guy is planetary threat level. At John Kaisen Fan Club, John Kaisen did nothing wrong. He saved Chicago. OMNIMAN attacked first. Watch the full footage. Hashtag justice for John. At Chicago Survivor 1, I was 3 blocks away when this happened. That attack was not meant for Omniman. John Kaisen is either saving us from something or starting a war. At Hera Photographer, I don't care what anyone says. This was the most beautiful and terrifying thing I've ever seen. Hashtag Dragon Guy, hashtag Chicago, hashtag Flaxen Invasion. And through it all, One image kept getting reposted, shared, memed, analyzed frame by frame. Omni-Man, Earth's greatest hero, bloody and beaten, screaming a name with pure hatred as he disappeared into an alien dimension. Curse you, Kaisen. The world had watched a god fall. And they had no idea what came next. Cecil Stedman's POV. This has been a shitty day and a half. I stood at the head of the war room, watching the footage loop on the main projector for the 7th time. First, that convict escapes holding, and now this. The GDA clerk, sweating through his cheap suit, hit the replay button with a shaking hand. The footage played again. That same convict, John Kaisen, summoning a massive mythological dragon out of thin air like he was pulling a rabbit out of a hat, except the rabbit was a 50-foot-long engine of destruction. Then, the fusion, blue and orange light swirling around him and the dragon, their bodies merging into something that looked like it had stepped out of a fever dream. A man in draconic armor with massive wings. And then, the systematic obliteration of an entire Flaxan invasion force. Energy daggers with lightning crackling along them, raining from the sky like divine judgment. And energy beams that vaporized everything they touched. A final attack that carved a goddamn valley through downtown Chicago. And then, the real kicker that had the entire war room on edge. Omni-Man, bloody, bruised, and furious, staggering out of a Japanese tatami gate like a doorway to hell. Only to get hit by that same dragon-armored kid's finishing move and launched directly into the collapsing Flaxan portal. I'd watched the footage so many times I could recite it frame by frame. I could see the exact moment Omniman's eyes locked onto the kid. Could see the pure, unbridled hatred in his expression. Curse you, Kaisen. The audio quality was crystal clear. Every analyst in the room had heard it. Every news outlet on the planet had played it. Social media had turned it into a meme in under 20 minutes. I chewed hard on the inside of my cheek, as it finally started to bleed. I was in a shitty mood. That wasn't exactly new. I'd been in a shitty mood since I took this job. But there was an undercurrent of anticipation vibrating in my chest that had the rest of the room walking on eggshells around me. Status report, I barked. Leonard, one of the senior analysts, nearly fell out of his chair scrambling to respond. Sir, we've triangulated the quantum signature of the gate he produced. It's giving off readings similar to the Flaxan dimension, but with a different harmonic frequency. He's completely off-world right now. Wherever he went, it's not anywhere in our dimensional space. I nodded slowly, turning my attention back to the frozen frame on the screen. What about the tracker? Donald's expression didn't change, but I saw the slight shift in his posture. We successfully embedded a GPS tracker. The moment he steps back into our dimensional space, every satellite we have will lock onto his position. John Kaisen, unique name, I'd give him that. All right, I said quietly. The second he pings back in our dimension, I want a full tactical movement. Yes, sir. I looked around the room, making eye contact with each analyst, each agent, each person who now knew exactly how precarious Earth's safety had become. Make sure that tracker works, Donald. Because if that kid comes back and decides Earth isn't worth saving. I didn't finish the sentence. I didn't need to. We both knew exactly what was at stake. A.N. Support my work and get early access to advanced chapters, exclusive content, and bonus material at my P@Trian Max Striker. If you wanna hang out, join my Discord server web links. To be continued.